Chapter 3. The tablet as a basic circuit. The next information we find on Shamash's tablet is an extension of the universal circuit understanding. As above, so below, as below, so above. This phrase, found on the much more famous emerald tablet, is also depicted on Shamash's tablet. To understand how, you must first understand how a basic circuit works, because it is the foundation of every electrical event in existence. Shamash is the solar deity. Energy is the first thing most people associate with the sun's light and heat. Before we begin, we must first ponder a question seldom asked. What is energy?
Energy is not the magical cause of things. It is a side effect of variables interacting. When people think of a basic circuit, they think of a battery, some wire, and a light bulb. When asked which of these three parts is the one energy comes from, they most often say with confidence, the battery. However, the true answer is both the battery and the wire. Energy means flow. Energy gets released every time physical molecules move. This happens whenever the requirements that obligate the circumstance that allows for the creation of a circuit to exist get met. Circuits of energy exist at every degree of scale throughout the entire universe. The following is a breakdown of the circumstance they are born from, and how changes in that circumstance affect the energy that gets released. There are four basic rules that energy always follows. Every circuit needs a power source. The amount of potential energy that flows from the power source is measured as voltage. Energy has one purpose: to get from one area to another. Because it naturally wants to do this, we can put it to work. Rule 1. Energy flows primarily from positive to negative, high pressure, concentrated or elevated, to low pressure, unfocused or oblivious. Energy from this source gives the sensation of being pushed. This aspect represents the battery. Without wire, it alone releases no energy. All factors other than polarity being equal, unless being utilized, energy will always flow through the path of least resistance. Rule 2. The degree, extreme, and distance between two poles of any potential difference determines the amount of energy to be released if a resistance connects the positive and negative points. This plus principle 3 establish the spirit of the event. Example 1. The polarity of a slow-moving brook. Example 2. The polarity of a waterfall. Rule 3. The nature of the conductive medium connecting two poles of any potential difference determines the effect. This includes rate of vibration, nature of activity generated, the type, amount, and speed at which the energy is released will travel, regulation of the efficiency and the amount of time with which a resource can be utilized. All of these things together determine the type of work you can do with the energy being released. That work is called the load. The load is the burden that the source must have enough energy to give up or sacrifice in order to complete the job. Most people think electrons move from a battery down a wire like cars on a freeway. They do not. Each electron from the battery attaches to one side of an atom in the wire. That atom then sets an electron free to the next atom, causing a chain reaction down the wire. It is the wire in conjunction with the battery that allows energy to be released. Only when the two are put together do the molecules in the wire start moving. That movement is energy. We measure that movement as current. Another way to look at it: if a single plane existed and you wanted to build a mountain, the result would be a corresponding valley. Until rain falls to flow and connect those 2 points, there is no energy to draw. One could also view it like this. If you were to attempt to make contact with another person using one of the above items, how would the activity generated or spirit of the encounter change based on the conductive medium or nature of the item itself? Rule 4. When being utilized, secondary energy flows, or more accurately, is drawn from the negative with the result of the activity fueling or feeding the positive. Here's an example. The polarity of atmospheric pressure. When there is no pressure difference between the land and the water, no low or high pressure areas of potential difference exist. The sun comes out and a potential difference forms between the water and the land. High pressure flows to low pressure. Low pressure returns to or feeds the high pressure until equilibrium is reached, at which point flow stops. Energy from the side effect of negative being drawn to feed the positive gives the sensation of being pulled. Here's another example. The polarity of ocean currents. The sun warms surface water at the equator. Current flows to the negative pole. The negative pole cools the water. Cold, deep water gets utilized or drawn up to feed the cycle of surface water warming. And a final example. The polarity of suns to a black hole. Every sun is a contributor to the sum total of all the positive poles in the universe. The purpose of every black hole, which are actually spheres, not holes, is to contribute to universal movement as the negative pole that is required so that current has a place to flow. Light does not escape a black hole because black holes are, by design, the final destination of light. A black hole expands based on the amount of energy that gets compressed into it. All of the light and matter in the entire universe eventually finds a home in a black hole. This is where energy once again returns to its purest physical form. It remains there as dense matter, which is potential energy awaiting re-release. When the universal expansion maximum is reached, it begins to recede. This continues until all the matter and energy of the entire universe is forced back into a single point. It is the forcing of every black sphere into this singularity that triggers the next big bang. When that event occurs, the stored energy of every black hole is the fuel source that explodes out and flows from all these holding facilities. That is what feeds every positive point in the entire universe during the next great expansion.
Thoughts are things. Ideas focused upon long enough manifest as your physical reality. The symbol on the idol is the conductive medium. The common belief in its message is the thing that connects all of the people drawn to the event. The table the idol sits on is the load. It literally needs to be lifted by those working above on Shamash's behalf, so that the message of the symbol on the idol can be held above all else. In order to do this, Shamash must sacrifice a percentage of his energy to them so that they have the energy to do their jobs. Shamash is the sun, the positive or power source. He is bigger than everyone else. The negative is the smallest person in the room. This is not meant to imply that all physically large people are superior to people physically smaller than them. The size that is being depicted here refers to mentality, which also represents motive force. Shamash's headdress has 4 waves. His mind is full of activity. The smallest helper wears a helmet or solid cap. It has no waves on it. His mind has very little self-generated activity. He and Shamash work together as one, but are distinctly polar opposite aspects of the equation. He is helping raise the idol by keeping it steady. Without him physically touching the table, the final goal of raising the idol could not be realized. This completes the positive flows to negative aspect of how a circuit works. As above, so below. Just as the tides are influenced by the sun and moon, so are people similarly influenced by forces greater than themselves. All this activity draws many different types of people to it. There are only two types that matter, because they become resources. The first person drawn in also has no waves on his helmet. However, his headdress is larger because he is capable of more thought. He is not oblivious like the first person. He has room to expand his mind. He is the one drawn to the event who was willing to lend a helping hand, which he is. His helmet is also larger than the smallest person because he has proven his value, which is greater than that of the one who is smaller. He is new potential energy that can be utilized as future needs demand. However, in order to keep that person loyal, he, just like the people doing the heavy lifting, will require a percentage of Shamash's energy in order to maintain him, so that he can afford to remain and fulfill the role he has established within the circuit. The last person who was drawn to the event is clapping. They are strictly a spectator. As a convert, whose robes have become as the leader wears, they have the most value because the energy they give to the event, in the form of simply telling others about this new thing that impressed them, requires no investment of Shamash's energy to maintain. His headdress is now a tiny copy of Shamash's, which means his mindset is now in harmony, or a reflection of the leaders. Just like a fire draws air, waves of activity are returning unseen through the floor from the most easily inspired and influenced guest back to Shamash. This completes the circuit by showing how the negative gets drawn to the positive aspect of the equation functions. By focusing only on the energy always flows. From positive to negative aspect of a circuit, humanity as a species is actually limiting the energy that is available to it by half. Take a moment to reflect on the incidents, both large and small, that have occurred in your life. Remember a circumstance when you were pushed into doing something. Remember a circumstance when you were drawn into doing something. Can you pinpoint a time you pushed someone else into doing something you wanted done? Or was there ever a time you took advantage of someone who was drawn to you? As above, so below. As below, so above. Everything at every level of existence that moves is caught somewhere in the great web of the infinite, ever-repeating divine pattern that is the dynamic of the circuit circumstance, which connects all things both large and small. Every degree of scale vibrates at its own frequency. From base material to base animal, all the way up to pure consciousness. One's perception of the experience of life is a reflection of the frequency they too are vibrating at. The movement and activity created by the divine pattern is so diverse that all appears to be chaos. Once one has taken the time to learn and observe the absolute influence of the divine pattern, chaos dissolves into an ultimate chartable order that is the first law functioning. The only way to experience freedom within it is to find peace with it. The way you do this is to become more aware of it. That way, when you do move, it is by conscious choice, not subconscious instinct or impulse. The mathematics of a basic circuit is governed by Ohm's law. To learn the expanded understanding of Ohm's law, which is in fact the divine pattern, also known as the first principle, and be shown how Ohm's formula applies to every aspect of your life, be sure to visit ohmslaw.ca. Once there, first watch the introductory video, Georg Simon Ohm's hypothesis. Next, Pick the subject you would like to see the law applied to and enjoy the explanations in the encyclopedia found there.